RMB update at 10. This is John Hawkins. The community charge has
10 a.m. A postman on his rounds. A normal early morning scene in a Birmingham street. 11 o'clock. Less welcome visitors, a bailiff and an agent from a building society. They've come to take possession of 21 Florence Avenue. A family has fallen behind in its mortgage payments and has been evicted from the house. Ten minutes later, a locksmith turns up. Last year, building societies repossessed nearly 14,000 homes. This year, that figure could be much greater as the mortgage rate reaches a record level of 15.4%. Finally, after the front door's been opened, 2 plumbers are called in. The house is empty. The previous owner had already packed up and left the day before.
I just didn't want to be there. There was no way on this earth I'd be there. I couldn't see that, because the thing is, they probably have to break the door or something. I don't know what they do. But I know of people who have had the furniture put out on the streets with it. And I just couldn't face it. That's why, I was there last night. That's my last night there. No, I couldn't face that. It's heartbreaking, really.
An estimated 500,000 families, that's 1 in 20, are now in arrears with their mortgage and could face the possibility of eviction. Tonight, World in Action follows the fate of 5 of these families battling to save their homes. In the week we filmed, some just avoided eviction. Others lost their homes.
Sarah, it's Michael Brett here from Homeowners Club. How are you?
I'm very well, dear.
Michael Brett runs an advisory service helping people to cope with a variety of problems with their homes.
I just wanted to check the current state of the arrears at the moment. They say in their letter that the arrears have increased at the end of January to £2,913. Do you agree with that?
Increasingly, he's finding that calls for help about mortgage arrears are dominating his workload. He has more than 1,000 cases of mortgage problems on his books.
What are the typical causes of mortgage arrears?
Well, historically, we used to deal with unemployment, redundancy, sickness and accident, matrimonial breakup. But by far the most common cause at this moment in time is the higher interest rates. People just cannot cope. They couldn't possibly budget for a near doubling of their mortgage repayments, in the first 2 years of their mortgage. We have more problems in the south, again, because of the bigger mortgages, the bigger commitments, and they feel the rate rise, don't they, as soon as it goes up. It may be for £30,000 will cost you an extra £19 a month, but if you've got a £70,000 mortgage, it's a totally different ballgame.
Leon and Diane Irons bought their first house in St Leonards-on-Sea in Sussex 3 years ago. At the time, both were earning good salaries.
What was it that made you decide to buy?
Because earning the money we were, it seemed stupid to fritter it away on... Well, we started frittering it. We got the telly and the video and whatever, but then it seemed silly to keep doing that. We had a substantial amount of money coming in. It seemed sensible, and the whole structure of society at the time was yes, buy.
Yeah, why pay to a landlord when you can own your own home, kind of thing?
And then, the interest rate started going up and the rug started slipping around, but... we've struggled for 18 months, and looking back, I don't know how we've done it. And I just daren't look forward. You take one day as it goes.
Their financial problems began when Diane's salary as a saleswoman suddenly dropped. Then Leon was made redundant just before Christmas. Meanwhile, their monthly mortgage repayments jumped from £380 to £560. They're now £1,700 in arrears. To solve their financial crisis, the couple must sell their home quickly. They've already dropped the price several times.
Basically, neither of us live in the kitchen, so, we do most of our hanging around in this room. So we wanted quite a nice-sized room.
Saturday afternoon, and 2 potential buyers are shown round the house. It's now been on the market for 2 years, but this couple are only the 4th to have looked at it. For the Ironses, it's a race against time. If they don't sell soon, they could end up in court and face eviction.
But in the summer, the sun sets over there and you can sit and watch it go down.
I mean, how interested are you? Because, we really need to sell.
Yeah, well, obviously we got
lots of other places to go and have a look at, you know.
Yeah.
And I
It's
mean,
the right style.
oh yeah,
It's the type
you know.
of thing we're looking for anyway.
you know.
And what about the price? Is it, you know, is that all right? Or...
Yeah, well, that seems, you know.
We have actually dropped it 10,000
Yeah.
since we put it
Well,
on
that's
the
the,
market.
that's the, you know, again, that's the name of the game, isn't it?
But in the next street, the size of the problem facing the Ironses is only too obvious. In a space of 50 yards, we found another 8 houses for sale. While they wait for news from the potential buyers, the Ironses remain bitter about the attitude of the building societies.
They just don't seem to have got the sense that there are an awful lot of people out there that are in severe difficulties. I mean, I think the reason it's remained hidden for so long is basically because it is against normal social practice to discuss your financial failings in public. So people shut up and struggle.
Why have things changed now?
Because people can't struggle for ever, basically. There's got to be a cut-off point somewhere. I mean, irregardless of where it is, I would imagine the divorce rates and suicide rates last year and this year will be quite high for that reason, because that's an escape route. But I mean, all you can see is one long tunnel stretching ahead with brown envelopes sticking on it, you know.
Certainly the families that we've been dealing with just cannot cope. There's no way. They can't even afford the luxury of being able to sell the property. If you can't afford the mortgage, you could always sell the property and move down market. But because of the property market, that's not possible. They're in this catch-22 situation. No matter what they do, they can't win. And that has such a dramatic effect on families. The worry, the day-to-day existence. It finishes relationships, breaks up marriages, and puts an impossible strain on family.
An important part of Michael Brett's work is to find ways of making savings in the family budget. Today he's travelling to Wales to advise the Cowan family. Jan Cowan lives in Cardiff with her husband Jimmy, a taxi driver, and their 4 children. She's in charge of the family budget, but has managed to pay the mortgage only 4 times in the last 15 months. She kept the size of the debt secret from her husband.
It got out of hand and it got to the stage where I couldn't cope any longer. But instead of coming clean, it became like one big embarrassment. And so instead of, as I said, telling him, I just swept it under the carpet thinking, oh, it'll be all right, I'll sort it out next week, and next week will come. And no, it just never seemed to get sorted out. But the letter to say that they were taking us to court, the actual court date on it, was the shock horror that put it all into perspective. And I'm glad it did, but it was one hell of a shock to think that I'd let it get that far.
Well, first of all, I thought there was something actually wrong with Jen, because over a period of time she'd been depressed and we were having rows, and obviously I come home from work and a bit tired and she'd have a go at me, and I thought, well, hang on, what's happening here?
How guilty do you feel?
Very guilty. Yeah, very guilty. I mean, on the surface it might all look fine, but really deep down, I mean, we've had some heart-wrenching weekends where I've not been able to control my emotions. And it's been horrendous, it really has. You know, I mean, somebody would actually have to be here to see what it's been like. It's been awful.
Each month, the Cowan family's debts are getting larger. Their monthly mortgage payment has risen by £70. At the same time, the Building Society was charging interest on the mortgage arrears on the house.
The letter that the Building Society sent you says that you owe £3,000 in arrears.
Mm-hmm.
Can you pay that?
No. There's just no way that we could find the money. You know, I mean, it's hard enough as it is now to find the monthly repayments. So to actually find any more, we just can't do it. It's just impossible.
So what do you think is going to happen?
I really don't know. I dread to look to the future of the next few weeks, because I just really don't know what is going to happen. Unless a miracle is going to be around the next corner. I just don't know.
The Abbey National took them to court in January and tried to repossess the home. But instead, the 2 sides were told to try to agree on a plan to reduce the mortgage debt.
OK, so what we've got here then is £3,000 of the arrears, which is now bordering serious as far as the Abbey are concerned.
Yes.
We've got
Later today, Jan Cowan
repayment
has a
proposals
crucial
to
meeting with the
reduce
Building
the size of
Society.
the arrears.
Michael Brett will be there to represent her.
To show a sign of good faith. We haven't got the income to offer any more in the normal monthly instalment on top of the normal monthly instalment. So really, we're down to grovelling, aren't we?
That's
We've
right.
got what we've got to do is we've got to go to the Abbey and.
Jan Cowan and Michael Brett's meeting with the Abbey National lasted for 2 hours. There was some good news for the Cowans. The immediate threat of repossession was lifted. But the bad news was that their monthly repayments were to be increased from £246 to £328. This extra payment was to last for 4 months to help clear the arrears.
The agreement that you've made with Jan is for her, over the next 4 months, to increase her payments by a fairly substantial amount. I mean, do you think that's wise, given the fact that she hasn't got any money anyway?
Well, we've carefully gone through an income and an expenditure account with her, and we still feel, however, that she can meet this level of commitment. It serves 2 purposes as well. In that, one, it will restore our confidence in Jan as wanting to solve her problems, and 2, for the first time in a long time, it will prevent the balance that has been increasing from continuing to do so.
I can't understand how someone like Jan, with 4 children, can go to a building society branch manager, ending up paying more than they would grant a new borrower. They went in, they get a far cheaper instalment because they're taking out a new loan. It seems ridiculous. Surely the obvious thing to do is to reduce the instalments, but that's the way of it.
Basically, it's steeper than I thought it would have been. It's not sort of the result that I was really hoping for. It's going to be an awful struggle. There are some days I have great hope, but then there's other days when perhaps I'm not feeling that good when I get up in the morning and I can't see any light at the tunnel. I go round and I tidy up the home and I think, well, what am I doing this for? Because maybe in a few weeks' time I won't have all this. And everything you sort of built on and achieved is all going to go.
In a rural part of Wiltshire, another couple is only days away from eviction. The Butler family finances deteriorated when Jenny decided to have a baby.
It made a big strain on them, a very big strain. As I said, I ended up giving up my job full-time and going part-time because we worked out, and for what I was paying for babysitting, I was only bringing them half my money, so I couldn't see the point in working all day for half a wage.
So having a baby really was one of the causes that
Yeah.
you've landed in arrears, really?
Well, really, yeah, it was the start of it, but I just said I really wanted my own child. And I don't see the way the government's got things that people can't have their own families. I don't see why we shouldn't be able to have our own family and have our own home.
With their monthly mortgage payments going up and their income reduced, the Butlers ran up arrears of £3,000.
Are there any other bills that you're expecting to come in that might make the situation worse?
Well, yeah, because I mean, we haven't really thought about it, but it's poll tax we're dreading. I mean, there's no way we can meet that. I mean, one of us, paying one lot's going to be bad, but for 2, I mean, it's just ridiculous. There's no way we can do it.
When the Butlers first fell into arrears last year, the Building Society took them to court. It's an ordeal for many
It's
people.
so frightening. You've got to sit there and wait, and everybody's looking at you, and you don't know what they say. It depends on what they say today. It's what happens to our future now. To think that somebody can decide on your future is a bit frightening.
Many people going to court are not represented, and legal aid is not available. Those going to court alone often find their cases dealt with in a matter of minutes.
I think it's a question of shock. I've seen people walk out from the chambers, and you can tell by their expressions what's happened. They can't believe that the property, their home that they've lived in for years, can literally be snatched away from them by a man they've never seen before.
It's tremendously harrowing. Most people have been struggling for many, many months to keep the mortgage going. And when they finally go to court, it's the end. It's failure. They have to give up. And they're exhausted by the struggle. And they need tremendous support to be able to put their case forward clearly. They're not in the emotional state of mind to be able to put their case forward to the best advantage. They're exhausted.
3 weeks ago, the Butlers found that they'd moved another stage nearer to losing their home.
They've implemented the repossession order, and we've got an eviction order for the 7th of March.
And what'll happen then?
10:30 on the 7th of March, the bailiffs will come in, change the locks, and throw us out, unless the council have got themselves sorted out.
The Butlers' hopes of saving their home lie with the North Wiltshire District Council. It's planning to introduce a shared ownership scheme. The council would buy part of the Butlers' house. The family would then pay a smaller mortgage plus some rent to the council.
It's in response to growing mortgage arrears and the number of cases coming to us for help. If we didn't offer this sort of scheme, we would have to assist these people through the provisions of the homelessness legislation. We would have to provide them with a council home. It actually makes sense to let them stay in their own home. It avoids the stress and trauma of repossession and eviction and then coming to the council homeless and roofless.
But the council needs time to buy the Butlers' house and put the scheme into operation. So at the county court at Chippenham, the family is hoping to persuade the Building Society's solicitor and the court to delay the eviction order.
They've let us have the extension for 28 days. It's all down to the council now. It's all their finger out. Get it all sorted out for us.
The solicitor wanted to oppose it. They didn't want them to have the extension.
They're quite strongly about that. They reckon we
But
wouldn't get another one. This is it. This next 28 days is going to be their final.
If the council ain't sorted it out in 28 days, and that's it, we're out.
Do you feel bitter about what's happened to you? Do you blame anybody in particular?
Well, I suppose really you could say it's the government really putting the interest rates and inflation rates up. They're obviously not thinking of the poor families that's trying to survive in this deal of theirs. I mean, they keep on about the inflation having to go up to cover this, that and the other, but where does the poor families come into it? I mean, they encouraged you a few years ago to become a house owner. I mean, now it's just turning into a nightmare for everybody.
The Butler family has 28 days to save their home. But for Paul Bale and Desi Beeson, the battle has already been lost. The court has ordered them to leave by tomorrow. Last Thursday, they were preparing to move out.
Do you know where you're going to be going?
Well, we've got to be out of here in 4 days' time, definitely. As where, we don't know yet. But it's definitely bed and breakfast.
Have the council told you which bed and breakfast you're going to?
No, not yet. It's getting a bit worrying, only 4 days, and we don't know where we're going.
It all seemed a lot rosier 18 months ago when they bought their terraced house in Gloucester.
What's on now, James? What are we on? 4?
Both had jobs, Paul as a machine operator in a local factory and Desi as a cook in a hotel.
Oh, this is your life. Go on, turn it over.
Together, they could just afford their mortgage of £366 a month. Paul then lost his job. They tried every possible way to boost their income.
I've had to sell my motorcycle, which a dream that I'd saved for a long time. If not financially saved for, in mind I'd saved for it. My car, it's my car. Well, the family car, wasn't it? Even that is a big, when you're used to something. We thought that might have done it, didn't we? But then there was... What else?
Sold, I had some nice pieces of brass that were worth a fair amount, and we sold those to antique dealers, didn't we? Which, that to me is a great loss.
Has it been in your family for a long time, haven't they?
Yeah. And then when I came home one day from work, and I went into the bedroom, and the clothes were all over the place. I thought we'd been robbed. And Paul had sold the wardrobes to pay the gas bill because he didn't want me to know that the red had came through that morning.
Paul then got a new job, but the higher mortgage rates dealt a crippling blow to the family's finances. Their monthly payments rose to £600.
As it was, I was working all the hours I could do overtime, and my money was being taken straight out of my bank account. I didn't even have 50p left a week, and it still wasn't enough for the mortgage, to cover the mortgage inflation. I couldn't do more than I was doing. It was, all our dreams were just floating out the window.
Paul and Desi put £17,000 into the house when they bought it and spent several thousand more on improvements. They've tried to sell it since last July but have failed. Now it seems likely they will lose all the money they've invested in their home.
We've already accepted the fact that we have lost probably about £21,000 in all that we've put into this place.
That's if we can sell it at the going rate now.
We've accepted the fact that we've lost it. But because the prices have dropped dramatically, they've gone down so much, because we bought it for 59 I doubt if we could even get 40 for it. No.
2 houses up's gone for 35,000, so.
The couple are now more than 6 months in arrears, owing £4,500. The court proceedings are all over. Unless they give up their house by tomorrow morning, they'll be evicted. Gloucester Council has accepted they'll be homeless and is trying to find suitable bed and breakfast accommodation.
I think being in a guest house, the privacy would be the biggest loss. The family feeling together, all sat in our own house, our own room.
It's living with people that you don't know, and you know, you have to go out to work every day and leave all your belongings locked in one room. You've got no guarantee that they're still going to be there when you get back.
Paul and Desi have lost their home and their money. They've little idea what's going to happen to them in the future.
How long do you expect to be in bed and breakfast accommodation?
Well, I was under the illusion of 6 to 12 months, but they've now told me it's advanced to 12 to 24, which is 2 years, and that's quite a worrying thought, 2 years in bed and breakfast.
What sort of measures do you think the building societies could be taking rather than repossession?
They can extend the term of the loan over 35 years instead of 25 years. That brings down the normal monthly instalments. They can provide moratoriums, mortgage holidays, if you like, for people to catch up on their other debts, to leave them free to handle their existing mortgage repayments. They can look at low start schemes for people, if you like, remortgage, so that they're paying the same rate as first-time buyers. There are loads of options available to them.
But for a fifth family, owning a house is already just a memory. Catherine Fitzgerald and her 2 sons packed and left their home in Birmingham last week, the night before it was repossessed. She bought the house 2 years ago, just after separating from her husband.
It was a cheap house, it really was. So, had 2 bedrooms, what I wanted. Small garden at the front, small garden at the back. Ideal. You know, it's quite a quiet area. Close to the children's school. That was it.
Did you enjoy living there?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I did. Very happy there.
Although she only earned a small salary as a part-time nurse, Catherine was surprised to get a mortgage so quickly.
What do you think about that in hindsight now, the fact they said no problem?
Well, I mean, really, I just think it was too easy. Too easy. If they'd have sort of said, well, you know, we're not sure, but they lapped it up, really. You know.
But as interest rates went up, Catherine soon struggled to pay the mortgage. Last June, she started to go badly into debt. She now has arrears of £1,600. Then, 2 months ago, her husband withdrew maintenance payments. Last week, she gave up the struggle and moved out.
It's dreadful. Very, I was upset. Really upset. But, nothing, you know, I knew there was nothing I could do. Nothing. So, just walking around the house, you know, it was all bare. Just remember, you know, when I first moved in, it was really, it's terrible. You know, just having to take, in the boys' room, you know, all the toys and everything. You just feel guilty. I felt really guilty.
The economic climate for many homeowners seems bleak. Interest rates and inflation are unlikely to fall significantly in the near future. Next week's budget promises little or no change in mortgage tax relief. There'll be little comfort for families with mortgage problems. The Ironses in Hastings have still not heard from the young couple who looked round their house. They applied for a cheaper mortgage, but have been told they've been turned down. Jimmy Cowan took home just £106 last week. After paying the building society, the family had £20 left to spend on food for the week.
Gosh, it's hard, but I mean, last month.
The Butlers in Chippenham are still waiting to hear from the council about the shared ownership scheme. 10 of the 28 days extension given by the court have already passed. Desi Beeson and Paul Bale have to leave tomorrow. They're still waiting to hear which bed and breakfast accommodation they'll end up in. Catherine Fitzgerald and her 2 sons moved into a council flat on Saturday. She's certain she'll never buy a house again.
I wouldn't do it now. I'd never do it again. Never, ever. I'll be in rented accommodation for the rest of my life, I think. It's too. I mean, at least rents don't go up that much. Rents and rights, they don't. Not as much as the mortgage has.